Call this meeting of Finance Committee back to order. Please be seated.
Mr. Chair.
Minister explaining the new driver's license fee structure.
Mr. Chair, the increase on the driver license, it's going in the new budget. We are proposing to increase driver license, vehicle license, and license for trailers, and depending also in the category of the group that you are, or will be increased, and the years will be increased also by the amounts. But I want to make it very clearly, Mr. Chair, the increase is not for Caymanians. The increase is not for Caymanians. So that increase that he's seeing, if the minister is happy, if the member is happy, I can give him a full breakdown of every increase that there will be when it comes to DVDL. I can have that for him probably by tomorrow. Keep it in mind, this is actually something that we're proposing to go forward with. So if you're okay with that, member for Georgetown Central, I'll be able to provide you with a full detailed breakdown of all increases. But I just want to make sure that it's absolutely clear that these increases will not hit Caymanians.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Member for Georgetown Central, continuing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That is very pleasant news to know that it's not for Caymanians. And I'm assuming that's a policy decision because it's in your budget projection. So I'm assuming that will be going forward. Mr. Chairman, I want to move now to an area which I think my colleague touched on earlier, the member from Bordentown East. But I want to go in the opposite direction. It has to do with the parks cleanup thing. We just unfortunately seen the destruction of Hurricane Melissa to our brothers and sisters in Jamaica, and my heart and prayers goes out to them and those who are in the sound of my voice. May God continue to bless Jamaica in their recovery. But it highlighted as a member, and I know that all members here probably have seen this, where you have Caymanians in their homes, they're not in a financial position to address this risk, where large trees that are very dangerous to persons' homes, that we know if a hurricane were to come and the person was actually in the home, they could possibly get as bad, as severe as potential death or severe damage to property. And I was hoping that the government would consider an option of assisting persons who meet a particular threshold of need by assessing the risk, and if they're not in a financial position to do so, willing to offer the appropriate tree cutting services. I have a lot of vulnerable seniors who have amazing big trees around their property, and every year I get a call going, Minister or member, can you come and help cut it? And now, obviously, we recognize that the cutting of tree services is an expensive exercise. One tree can be up to like $3,000 to cut it down. And I think that for those who are vulnerable, particularly our elderly, I think we should consider some sort of program where people can apply and prove that they can't do it themselves. Because what will end up happening is if a severe hurricane comes, we're going to have to end up helping them in the long run. So maybe expanding the NICE program. I don't think that was a question. I don't know if that, I'll phrase it this way. Is an option like that in that way within the park cleanup program that you have? If not, would it be something the government would consider?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, through you, that right now is something that we don't look at when it comes to parks. Of actually going out and assisting of cutting trees in people's yard. But it is something that we've looked at in the NICE program, where the NICE program people could actually go and help out. But what I will commit to the members that I will actually look at and assessing it and see what we have to do and bring it to the government to see if I can get the support of them, and then come back to this honorable house with it later on.
Member from Georgian Central continuing.
Thank you, Mr.
Three
Chairman.
questions to go.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, about 3 questions, you're right, too. I would just highlight to you that we had a discussion, and I don't recall if I did it with you, but maybe with some of your nice program coordinators about this, and the hurdles that was in the way is the insurance risk program. So it would have to probably be expanded further than that with professionals, because tree cutting is a very dangerous exercise, if I dare say, and our nice program offerings are just the general public coming to pick out light things, cut a little bush here and there. So I think you would have to extend it more than just a nice program, unless you can find qualified people who apply to assist. That's just background information. I'll move on. Mr. Chairman, I want to move now to NRA a little bit. First, I want to say thank you so much to the amazing staff you have at NRA. The group that you have there work very tirelessly. I've worked with them, whether it's through flooding, drains, making roads and all that, and they deal with my annoying self quite often, so I give them credit for that, and I thank them so much. If there's any of their representatives here, I want you to pass on to your team for all the hard work that they do. But there's one thing that is concerning for my constituency, and it's because Georgetown Central is in the heart of the capital. We see where the NRA will repave roads, but they do not adjust the sidewalks. You may have heard me speak about bus drivers driving up on the sidewalk, and a common place is right in front of Rogelio's. For those who know, when the bus comes, they pull up right in front of Rogelio and drop off. And what they don't realize is they're parking on the sidewalk where the public is supposed to walk. Is a safety risk concern. And I've examined it within my constituency, all up Eastern Avenue. We got similar situations where the road is exactly the same height as the sidewalk. That is a safety risk. What is the policy on repaving roads when it comes to sidewalk? Is there an obligation on the property owner or on NRA to either lift up the sidewalk, or should the road not be going as high and they dig off the asphalt from before they repave? Because I see it starting to be common across all the places where are being repaved. So can the minister elaborate on why that is being happening and what is the policy on it?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Chair, through you, I just, the first part of the question that the member asked was the height of the sidewalk. It was, and most sidewalks should be within 68 inches. And I do understand that some of the older roads in Grand Cayman, at that point in time, some of the sidewalks used to be at 4 inches. And that's why you see them so much lower than they are to the new traditional sidewalks around. So usually when NRA goes in and repaves an area, we would have to uplift the sidewalks in those areas if it is a sidewalk that belongs to the Crown. Not all sidewalks actually belong to the government. Some of them belong to the landlords in the areas. But it is something that we look at, of uplifting and fixing and enhancing the area. But I do agree with the member, Mr. Chair, that we need to look at a lot of some of the sidewalks and lifting them, because we do see a lot of cars park on top of them, especially the ones that have been there for years. So there are some that are going to be upgraded, and they are, as we come in to upgrade the roads, that's something that we need to look at, uplifting the sidewalk at the same time. So I'll make sure that we take that on, that it's a message that we pass on. I'm pretty sure I don't have to even pass that message on because the director's here, and he's already nodding his head. I know he's very good at taking notes, so he's already making note of that.
Mr. Chairman, to you, I am going to respectfully say to my good friend and colleague, I will hold you accountable to this one, my brother. This week after Finance Committee, I'm going to take pictures of all the areas in my constituency, and I will send them to you personally, CC the director of NRA, and hopefully a response with a reasonable period of time. This has been going on for years, my brother, and I'm concerned somebody is going to die on the sidewalk in my constituency, and I don't want it to happen. So I'm not trying to be difficult with you, bro. You know how much I love you. I respect you as a minister, but this has to be addressed. All right. My last area of questioning has to do with NRA, again, actually, with property compulsory acquisition. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, I have a constituent of mine which the minister is fully aware of, and I'm going to publicly air it today because I'm tired of this exercise happening where, and I think the minister spoke to it a little bit about changing of the law of public acquisition for road purposes and the prices that they pay people for acquiring their land for road infrastructure. And the current law, if my memory serves me well, is whenever the Gazette happened, is the price upon which they'll pay you for the property. So, for example, the good member, former member of this parliament, the Honorable Gilbert McLean, I think was one of the key components to the national roads strategy and gazetted roads from, I think, 30 years ago. Now, the government may not always get around to dealing with a gazette right away, and it could be many years, decades later. And the law currently would basically, according to examples I've seen from the entities responsible for giving the quotations of the pricing for acquiring those properties, would be the property value at that time. Now, I think that's crazy. I think the minister has recognized and he wants to change that. But in light of those changes to come, we have current circumstances right now before us. I'll give you an example. I have a constituent who's just retired, 30 years in the civil service, hardworking, dealing with special needs people. Her only home in Rockhole that she has to her name. The government gazettes a new road to go through. I think it's called the Godfrey Nixon. NRA goes in, compulsory acquires the property, knocks her house down. Fortunate for her, she has a loving brother who has been housing her for a while, but she gets a little income off of that house. Not only does she retire and can't get her pension until almost 4 months afterwards as a civil servant, and I want every civil servant to hear this, because the pension board has to do better. You're supposed to have a pension payout ready for any civil servant and not to miss 1 month, because that could be the difference of whether somebody eat or not. But let me not get distracted. Not only that happened, but she has no income now from her property that she had for herself, which NRA has knocked down. It's been now almost 3 years since they've done that and have not paid her. So here's what they want to do. In today's 2025 market, pay her for 2018 housing replacement costs. Now, she's a Georgetowner, happy to have her, but they want her to purchase a home and a dwelling for $105,000. You tell me where in Cayman you're going to buy a house for $105,000 unless they go and live, well, East End is a lovely place, but she's a Georgetowner, and I don't even think you can get a house and a piece of land in East End for that amount. Well, you're probably right about that. But my point is, it is inhumane to look at my people, particularly people who, and then they bog them down with bureaucracy of applications. Well, you should file for your claim for this and that, when they know, one of their own civil servants can look at them and say, oh, I offer you $105,000 for your house. Not even, without even excuse of where her rental income has gone, the fact that she can't purchase anything else, and God forbid her brother was to sell her property today, she would be on the streets and still can't get paid. Mr. Chairman, I would ask the minister, please, he knows exactly which one I'm talking about. The matter needs to be dealt with. Here's what happens in these cases. Government take their land, barely want to pay them their pension, and it comes to the MP, which I'm happy to support them, whereby they can't even put food on the table. You imagine this person today is applying to NAU. Applying to NAU for help when the government took their land and don't want to pay them a reasonable price. It has to stop. And in light of the minister saying the changes are coming, I think whatever projected changes there should be the quantitative valuation for her property today. And I haven't said any names here yet. But if I don't see some action, in all due respect, Mr. Minister, because I'm so tired of saying it over and over again to the relevant persons, if I don't see some actions in the next 3 months, I'm going to embarrass NRA and the evaluators. Now, maybe they may be provisioned or obligated to the laws that are before us, but a policy intent highlighted by this minister today shows the government intent. That should be enough to make a cabinet paper to increase the evaluation property to pay out the Caymanian so they can actually not be living on the state for help. Because you know the pensions that you give you today, not enough to survive. So her little property is what she was hopefully using to retire comfortably in her own country. Now, I would like to see this matter resolved. I am happy to see that the government has supported the minister with a half-decent amount of money for land acquisitions. I think he should have got more. But I am asking, Minister, please, can you get this matter resolved?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, through you, Mr. Chair, about a month ago, I would say somewhere around there, the leader of the opposition and the member for Georgetown, our deputy leader of opposition, came and seen me at my office in the government admin building about this same particular matter that the member is talking about now. Mr. Chair, I just want to remind him that the Gazette was done long before I got in. The road was going through, and the part of the road was already through there. But we realize what the problem is amongst when we spoke about each other, that the way that the valuations are done, and the valuations are done at the time of the Gazette, and depending at the time of when that person gets paid, and whether that land value went up different. So we agreed that we will be looking and making the changes to that law to be able to up that. And I had that in my speech earlier when I spoke about that, about making the changes to that. So the member knows that we're working our way down there. I hear his frustrations when he talks about it. I've spoken to the lady, I know. My DCO has been there and had a conversation with them. We've walked them through. We want to come up with a resolution for this, and we are going to come up with a resolution very swiftly for it. But we need to find, and matter of fact, I think the member actually came up with a creative way for us to resolve the matter. And we are looking at how we can resolve the matter in the direction that he even asked us of the creative way, which we thought was a good way. So to come here today to air it out that we're not doing anything isn't right, because he knows that we are moving forward, number one, with the changing of the law, because I do agree with you, we are affected. There's people that are affected by gazettes years ago and never got paid, and government put a gazette over your property, they can't do nothing with it, or they can't move, could never utilize all of the property because this gazette is on it. So we need to be able to pay our people at fair market price. So we are looking at making that changes. I can guarantee you that. That's another one that you can hold me accountable for, right? And I'm making sure my team, because I know my team is already progressing to move that section forward, right? And as soon as we were able to get it into cabinet and back into it, because it will have to take a law change to be done. Now, I can't tell you that I can go and tell the team to go ahead and do that knowing that the law hasn't been affected yet. That I will not say I'm doing. But I will tell you, we are looking at that one particular one, of how we can come up with a solution for that one person, for you, as we spoke about with the connections of the houses in a certain area.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just thank the Minister for that commitment and wrap up by saying this. Cabinet has the authority and the remit and the discretion to increase the amount offered to any landowner based on merit and justification. I think the mere fact that there's been an agreement that there needs to be a change is enough foundation with the cabinet paper that when that paper comes to say, yes, the law says this, but in light of the government's policy is recognizing that this is not a fair market valuation, that the government can make the decision to add on the relevant cost to reflect today's market prices, which is only fair. To be truthful, Mr. Chairman, there's no money that the market prices are going to go off for you to replace a house in Georgetown today. Even if they gave her $300,000 in Rockall, to replace a home in Rockall today would probably be at least $500,000. And I don't want to get into the specifics, but it is within the power of cabinet. So yes, you can't direct your members because the law has not changed. But there is room and discretion within cabinet to pay our people appropriately, because it's not only my constituent that is going through this, it's others. And you're right to say, and I want the record to show, the minister has been working with me to resolve this. But I am like what Arden would say, I trust but verify. And it's time for me now, because I've been dealing with this from even when I was minister, and it still didn't get resolved. So I want to make sure I put it on the record, because I'm here to represent my constituents, and I'm happy, I feel comfortable enough to know that the minister said he's going to deliver. So we'll go from there and leave it there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So in accordance with...
Mr. Chair, very briefly, to say that the member's point is well made. It's something that we've caucused about extensively. We have other examples from last term and other constituencies. It is a true pain point. It will be resolved.
That's one.
Member from Bartontown West.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. During the break, I received queries from my constituents, and they basically asked me to inquire of the minister. One, the property being, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the minister, that initiative that the government had in East End where they had bought property and then subdivided up for sale to Caymanians. Are all those properties sold, or are any still available?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, through you, those property has not been sold yet. We have made, when the new government got in, they were asked for us to look at how we could make the lots a little bit smaller. So that was something that the lands team went back out to do, because we could actually get a few more affordable lots into it. So they're actually looking at making the adjustments to that. As soon as those adjustments are done, then we'll be able to put those lands out. But again, that was the pilot project that started in East End, and we looked at, we would like to find another location to be able to move that pilot project out further.
Okay, and thank you very much. And the last question, Mr. Chairman, through you to the Honourable Minister. Sometimes the public want to keep events at government facilities, but it is normally required to have some kind of liability insurance. I know, for example, the case, the Bartontown Church Hall, that was one of them recently. The event was there, and a person had to go out and literally buy insurance. Is there any initiatives being looked at, or I don't know if it's the right minister, but since the minister in Bartontown, even the Bartontown School too, and from that with the public using it, is there any initiatives or anything being done that can help the public to have more community events without having this cost of getting the insurance, this very expensive insurance to actually have events at some of these government properties?
Member, that is something that Finance and the Minister responsible for lands will work on jointly and explore with the insurance providers exactly what the position is, and to get to the point of what you're referring to, that wouldn't be a requirement. That would be cumbersome and impractical in reality.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
So members, in accordance with Standard Order 83.3, I put the question on the following output groups. PAH 1, $8,216,078 in 2026, $8,378,011 in 2027. PAH 10, $14,758,222 in 2026, $15,053,786 in 2027. PEH 11, $4,354,179 in 2026, $4,410,272 in 2027. PEH 14, $6,571,126 in 2026, $6,693,484 in 2027. PEH 16, PAH, pardon me, PAH 16, $2,029,014 in 2026, $2,112,966 in 2027. PAH 24, $11,555,004 in 2026, $11,853,995 in 2027. PAH 26, $950,962 in 2026, $969,706 in 2027. PAH 27, $5,617,416 in 2026, $5,736,218 in 2027. PAH 28, $5,981,292 in 2026, $6,127,378 in 2027. PAH 29, $797,475 in 2026, $812,574 in 2027. NHT 4, $425,000 in 2026, $425,000 in 2027. NHT 5, $255,000 in 2026, $255,000 in 2027. NHT 6, $680,000 in 2026, $680,000 in 2027. NHT 7, $340,000 in 2026, $340,000 in 2027. NGS 24, $30,000 in 2026, $30,000 for 2027. NGS 84, $187,000 in 2026, $187,000 in 2027. Transfer payments, TP 60, $500,000 in 2026, $1 million in 2027. TP 76, $200,000 in 2026, $200,000 in 2027. TP 84, $400,000 in 2026, $400,000 in 2027. TP 124, $250,000 in 2026, $250,000 in 2027. Other executive expenses, OE 93, $122,000 in 2026, $122,000 in 2027. OE 101, $9,694,000 in 2026, $9,694,000 in 2027. OE 123, $5,000 in 2026, $5,000 in 2027. Equity investments, EI 57, $8 million in 2026, $7 million in 2027. EI 71, $4,500,000 in 2026, $5,550,000 in 2027. Executive assets, EA 4, $1,500,000 in 2026, $1,500,000 in 2027. EA 9, $1,500,000 in 2026, $1,500,000 in 2027. EA 78, $1,030,000 in 2026, nil in 2027. EA 148, $14,095,000 in 2026, $13,450,000 in 2027. EA 161, $1 million in 2026, $1 million in 2027. EA 164, $800,000 in 2026, nil 2027. EA 168, $7,575,000 in 2026, $9 million in 2027. Honorable members, move a motion to approve all the stated items on the schedule to the bill. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The items on the schedule have been approved to be a part of the bill. I want to thank the Honorable Minister of Plahi and all of his staff for attending this meeting of Finance Committee and providing the answers and the support to the Minister. I welcome the Minister to give his closing to his appearance and expert witness to the Finance Committee.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. It has been a long day. We still got a long night ahead of us. So, Chairman, I want to thank all of my staff that is here with me today, all of those that are still at the government building, even watching the proceedings that's going on now, making notes, all those that are actually not in the chamber with us, but are behind the scenes also making notes. But everybody that's been here from day one with us, they're committed. As you can see, it is a committed team that we have in the Ministry of Planning, Agriculture, Housing, and Infrastructure. This is why we call it the go-to team to get things done. As you can see how hard-working the team is, the 1,000 and odd members that actually make up this team. I want to just say publicly thank you to all of the hard work that they do to make this government look good and make this Cayman Islands look good. And gentlemen, ladies, thank you, chief officers, deputy chief officers, everybody in the finance section, thank you, directors, everybody. Am I missing anybody? I don't know. I don't want to call nobody out by name because I don't want to miss nobody, but I just want to say thank you to every single body that's been here. I want to thank you to also to my strong PS, Ms. Hunter, that's been here behind me, helping me out. A lot of people don't see it because of how the camera is set, but she's been getting me a lot of the feedback that I need from my team and helping me. I just want to tell that we are committed to getting a lot of the stuff done for that. Ms. Hunter is pleased to know that I know there's a lot of road work networks that she's put in for, and I can tell you she's been advocating heavily for her West Bay people, and not only for housing, for road works, but for just about everything. Yes, sir. So I just want to put on record too, I want to just thank P.S. Hunter for everything that she's been doing. She's been with us, going through line item by line item with us from the last couple of days, getting everything together as we met, as we continue to meet. I also want to put on record too that although I didn't mention it in any of the EAs that we were talking about, but the commitment that we're making to the Windsor Park, for also on building the restrooms at the park. So the member for Georgetown West could be happy to know that we are actually looking at getting that done for you also. So we'll collaborate with you and the Deputy Premier on how that actually works together. And you guys can decide which part of the fence you all want to put it. I won't get involved into that. But anyhow, we'll leave the collaboration together. But thank you all. Again, I want to thank all the opposition members for all of the questions that they put forward today. If they didn't put the questions forward to get the answers out to the people, a lot of the people wouldn't know my story and our glory that we do. And they realize that the hard work that this team really does. So I do thank the members for putting those questions forward so that they can make the people see that how good this team actually shines. Sorry, sir? Especially the member for Georgetown Central. Yeah, we know that he can be the lead man asking all the questions, right? But again, thank you all. It's been a good journey with you all, and thank you for the money, and I am off to the races now to get my hard work done. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you very much, Minister, for that comprehensive closing. We now turn our attention to appropriations to the Minister for District Administration and Home Affairs. I would ask all civil and public officers who are here to support Minister Nicholas DaCosta, Minister responsible for District Administration and Home Affairs, to please make your way to the chamber to support the Minister as we commence the questioning of his output groups. Thank you very much. Members, before us are the appropriations to the Minister for District Administration and Home Affairs. I welcome to the chamber his chief officer. I think there's a couple of deputy chief officers, his CFO, and I begin with output group DEH1, Policy Advice, Legislative Initiatives, and Ministerial Services. I love numbers, not letters. DAH1, Policy Advice, Legislative Initiatives, and Ministerial Services. I invite the Minister to give the committee a brief overview, and we commence questioning thereafter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not to repeat everything that I said on Tuesday, I think I gave quite a comprehensive overview of the ministry's plans for the next 2 years throughout this budget. But just to touch on a few things, similar to the previous Minister for Plahi, that said that his ministry touches every household. Well, Mr. Chair, this ministry also touches every household throughout the Cayman Islands, whether it be through rehabilitation, offender management, community wellness, border security, public safety in all senses, Sister Islands infrastructure and essential services. This ministry does it all. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I would beg that we dive straight in and pray and hope that I do not suffer the same fate. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister. Members, are there any questions on the AH1? And I would be interested to know if once we have questioned the Minister, are members minded to ask their questions generally and do a block vote? Because I am certainly in favor of that. Thank you. Member for Georgetown Central, you caught my first, and then member for Bordentown West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And good evening to your support team, those who are here. Good evening to you. Thank you for all the good work that you do. Let's start off fresh first. Can the minister say for the ministry, departments, any government-owned companies that falls under him or authorities, have you considered a COLA for those entities for the next 2 years, a cost of living adjustment increase for them?
Mr. Chair, I thank the member for the question. I think that was answered earlier by the chair.
Oh, yes, you're right. The chairman did say the whole of government has not considered a cost of living adjustment for the next 2 years. I apologize for repetition. Can the Honourable Minister... We are starting off fresh. The... Can the minister give us an overview? I was very happy to hear about the investments that is going to be happening in our sister islands. As we share our special love for Cayman Brac, I'm very, very happy to hear about the investments by the Water Authority to ensure that Cayman Brac gets the same quality of service as we do here in Grand Cayman for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Can the minister elaborate further than what he said in his budget contribution to get into the specifics as per how much money is going to be invested and in what equipment? I see that the budget documents highlight some significant investments over the next 2 years. Maybe he is willing to go over them. Thanks.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, through you, Water Authority is indeed continuing their fine stewardship of providing reliable, clean water to the people of the Cayman Islands. In their 10-year capital development plan, they have significant investment in the sister islands. They have begun the hydrogeological process for exploring the depth required for the abstraction wells and the brine disposal wells in Cayman Brac and in Little Cayman, because the plan is to build and carry forward the Bluff Water Works in Cayman Brac to expand the reservoir, as well as in 2026 begin the process and fully roll out in 2027 the RO plant and infrastructure needed in Little Cayman. The figures are contained within Water Authority's published documents. I don't have them here with me right now, but
page 943 of your ownership agreement.
Yep. So those are the figures.
All right. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman. Thank the minister for the information he was referring to is actually in your ownership agreement document. on page 943. And I want to turn your attention to page 942, if you can. Maybe you might want to get your document, but in the document of your projections for your financial performance for 2024, which was 42 million, and for 2025, the ending projection is 44 million. But what I've noticed, Minister, is that in 2026, it goes up to 49 million. And then in 2027, it goes up to 54 million for sales of goods and services. Now, Mr. Minister, what I'm trying to get at here is that Water Authority sells water. And that's a substantial jump of over 10% next year and a whopping 20% the following year. Where is those revenues coming from?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I beg for your indulgence for 1 minute, please. Thank you.
He's referencing the Water Authority. He's referencing that number. These numbers. In note 17. Then obviously it repeats it here. But then it breaks it down into water sales, sewage sales, and so forth. So those are the main two.
5%, 10% increase.
Water Authority, I don't know if you've, but they've been for a long time wanting to increase
The rates. Mm-hmm. I think we agreed to a small increase, but I know that they would have a few big projects come on. But Georgetown one.
Mr. Chair, sorry for the wait. Looking at the statement of cash flows for Water Authority on the page that the member identified, the forecast for 2025 increasing from 44.2 million to the projected increase amount of 49.9 million in 2026 is a 1.3% increase, which is a nominal increase in comparison to the sale of goods and the projected growth of the customer base, as well as a slight budgeted restructuring of expenses and how the operations are carried out.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The member is correct in respect to investment revenue, but the sales of goods and services is a different category. Would you agree?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I didn't say investment revenue. I was talking specifically to sales and goods of water.
Okay, all right. So maybe we're looking at two different documents. I don't think so, but I am looking at page 942 of ownership agreement under your statement of financial performance. And under revenue, the first line you see, first month of for the year of 2024, you see the figure of 42 million. And for 2025, you see the figure of 44 million. And then you look at the figure for 2026, you see 49 million. 44 to 49 is not a 1% increase, Minister.
While the minister gets assistance from his technocrats, I do also know that the Grand Hyatt is in that franchise area. Georgetown 1 is in that franchise area. So there's a number of large developments, GT1, that's in that franchise area that are going to be coming on stream, which are going to be big customers for the authority. So just to fill the gap while we're waiting on all the details to fill how the revenue increases are made up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's always good to have input for analysis, but I would definitely say that GT1 would not make up 10% of the consumption increase.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, just 1 minute. In addition to that, it'll be wastewater services for Grand Hyatt as well. So those figures there that were identified projects a 5% increase in service across Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac, as well as an estimated rate increase of 3%.
So you're increasing the fees at Water Authority?
By 3%. It's estimated in the budget, but it is not. We have to get approval.
But if it's in your projections...
We're hopeful, Mr. Chair.
So let me understand this, Minister. It is your intention to increase the Water Authority fees for Caymanians by 3%?
Mr. Chair, we are planning to operate a business financially and be financially prudent in operations to ensure that we can continue serving the Caymanian people by gaining the revenue that we need to supply them with the water that they need.
All right, thank you. Mr. Chairman, can I move on to another little area? This is just for information purposes so we can all understand where we are in respect to Water Authority. And I think the Minister would agree that Water Authority is a very important entity to the Caymanian people, as it's probably one of the main essential services deliverers that has kept their prices down and kept the burden low on Caymanians. Everything else is going up. On the next page of 943 of the ownership agreement, it talks about the cash flows. And if you see in the second row of focus, it says the cash flows from investing activities. And it talks about purchases of plants, property, and equipment. There seems to be an investment of over $25 million next year and another $51 million in 2027. You see it, Minister?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me where the money is coming from? I think it should.
Mr. Chair, Water Authority has funds on fixed deposits being held for capital investments that they've planned for the next 10 years.
Thank you, Minister. Great job. Thank you for the questions, for the answers. That's it for me.
Member for Bordentown West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Then the member for Georgetown West, and then later member for Cayman Brac East.
Continuing from the line of questioning from Mr. Bryan in Georgetown Central, I noticed that for the planning estimates, the forecasted cash position for core government at the end of 2026 is $428,629,000, and for the entire public sector, the forecasted cash position is $857,023,000. So in short, Mr. Chairman, and through you to the Honorable Minister, that core government cash is roughly a little over $428 million at the end of 2026. And in the SAGCs, the total amount of cash is also just over $428 million. I kind of find it quite alarming that the subsidiaries or the companies owned by government is carrying the same amount of cash as the government itself. And while I thought this was initially a fluke, when I look at 2027, Mr. Chairman, the total amount of cash forecasted for core government is $470,679,000, and across the entire public sector it is $937,008,000, a difference of $466,211,000. So in short, Mr. Chairman, core government will be sitting on roughly $471 million in cash, and the SAGCs will be roughly $5 million behind at $466 million in cash. I raise that when I also look at their compliance with the FFR. I noticed that at the end of 2026, government's total cash days is 91.6 days, which is 1.6 days above the minimum requirement of 90 days cash reserve. So I'm begging the question through you, Mr. Chairman, and recognizing that the Water Authority is one such SAGC that carries a significant amount of cash. Is it really in the government's and the people's best interest that the subsidiaries of government is carrying just about the same amount of cash as central government, when central government is the one that has the burden of maintaining the FFR and basically going out and borrowing cash, when there's a possibility that with a proper cash management and cash exercise, that some of the funds from the SAGCs can move into government, which would then, in essence, reduce central government borrowing amount as a possibility. And if it reduces the amount being borrowed by central government, it will also reduce the interest expense carried by central government. So the question through you, Mr. Chairman, to the Honourable Minister, is there any exercise being done by his ministry in terms of looking at the SAGCs under their remit to see what cash can be dividend up or transferred to central government to basically help the government to be in a little bit more compliance with FFR? Because I think we can all agree that 1.6 days above the 90-day minimum is sailing a little bit too close to the wind, considering what had just happened to our neighbor in the Caribbean and how quick things can turn.
Mr. Saunders, member for Bordentown West, in all fairness, I'm not sure that that's a question that I would ask the minister to answer alone. What I can say is I've had a discussion with him and with all members of caucus and the Premier. This is something that we're going to be looking at from a policy perspective, where we have to finally coordinate the cash flow requirements of the entire public sector. Now, anyone that doesn't like that, that's, in my opinion, going to have to be their problem. My job is to cash manage the EPS. And in doing so, determine how to best leverage that cash to avoid interest costs, as you've pointed out, and ensure we time out how we manage cash across the entire public service to ensure that we are doing what is right by the ultimate shareholders, which are the people of this country. For too long, we have had varying agencies who have determined that they are going to simply refuse to remit monies back to government. There will be legislative change that is needed. That is the exercise that we're going to undertake. It is going to be incorporated as to how we manage the finances of government. The management of finances of government has got to be rationalized and centralized to the Ministry of Finance. If the Ministry of Finance is going to have itself having the tail wag the dog, we will wind up doing what I inherited and what I saw when I entered this parliament 25 years ago and 12 years ago when I left. It cannot continue. So what I can commit to this committee is that that is a part of the exercise that we will be undertaking to ensure we put the right legislative framework in place, and ultimately, the public expects this body, not any other board, not any other entity. They're all wholly owned entities of the Cayman Islands government. The public expects this body and this ministry to do the work. It ultimately will be us that are blamed, and truthfully should be blamed, if we continue to kick this can down the road. And so we must ensure that across the entire public sector, we manage finances responsibly. Because you're quite right, Mr. Saunders. We should not be going out and incurring interest costs that can be avoided. Those interest costs can deliver critical services. I can go to every minister who is going to appear before this committee and ask them a simple question. If I could give you $2 million more, in some instances, $1 million more for a financial year, what impact could that have on our people? In a lot of instances, the impact could be significant. And so we must ensure that we do what is right and be responsible in our management of government finances. So that I can commit to you that that is going to be a part. When I spoke to budgetary reform, that is one of the strands of the budgetary reform that I spoke to in my address. But I invite the minister to respond directly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You, Mr. Chairman, sorry, I guess we all gonna make that mistake, especially at this hour. But while you did mention, Mr. Chair, that there are instances of those SAGCs whom perhaps maybe, I guess as I spoke about on Tuesday, hoarding the money in the Treasury and not assisting the entire public sector, the entire public service. What I can say, Mr. Chair, through you to the member, is that Water Authority is one of those responsible SAGCs where perhaps even for government, we have a 2-year budget, a 3-year SPS. Water Authority has always very prudently had a 10-year capital development plan where they plan for 10 years. They manage their resources in their bank account to ensure that they don't need to come to government to borrow cash, to get interest-free loans from government or elsewhere. Water Authority has managed their cash in their account. If you look in the ownership agreement documents, you'll see that Water Authority is funding all of their capital expansion themselves, whether it be through their investments that they're holding, whether it's through their revenue. It is not just staying there doing nothing when government can use it. This is for services of the people to ensure that they get what they need, and Water Authority is doing that well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
And so let me just make sure that we're very clear and that there's not mixed messages, mixed signals. And I appreciate what the minister has said. And that could very well be 110% accurate. Someone has to grade this. And it's not going to be the Water Authority or any other ministry, but the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Finance has to ultimately take this responsibility on. And so I'm not disagreeing with what the member has said, but what I'm saying is we have to have that level of reform so that that analysis is done. This committee gets the report and sees everything transparently. The public, therefore, knows what we're doing is hemmed up, and we're doing it efficiently, and we're timing it out appropriately. Because a lot of this is not rocket science. As he's quite rightly said, agencies are planning. And so it's about coordinating all of those plans and ensuring that we cash manage appropriately.
Mr. Chairman, just to expand one thing to the Honorable Minister, and I recognize that this is his first budget. This is the ownership agreement for 2026-2027, a very thick book. And included in this book is the Water Authority's forecasted financial statements. And it forecasts how much cash they're going to use and the whole 9 yards. This is the previous ownership agreement from the last budget that forecasted the amount of cash the Water Authority was going to use during their 2-year cycle. This is also the previous ownership agreement from the previous budget before that, that also forecasted the amount of cash the Water Authority was going to use as per the budget. Mr. Chairman, I have gone through and I've looked at all the forecasted cash usage from the 2 previous budgets, and I don't think I need to go any further. What I can say to you is this: saying that you're going to spend something and don't spend it, or saying you're going to use something and don't use it, while the country is still incurring interest expense sitting on cash, ain't going to work. So I already knew what your answer would have been, and I've also knew what the minister's response would have been. Thus the reason I could have come with these 2 previous ownership agreements and basically said that the cash was not being managed or used wisely across the entire public sector. So I'm happy to hear of the reform that you're talking about, because I am really hoping that this will be the last ownership agreement where the cash continues to grow within the SAGCs, and central government, as you said, is incurring interest costs, where funds can be going to help housing assistance, funds can be going to help people in terms of putting people in homes, and can even put more money towards scholarship. But what we can't have, as you said, rightfully so, is the central government paying $2, $3, $4, $5 million a year more in interest, where funds could be used elsewhere, and the SAGCs, the subsidiary of government, the children of government, is carrying just as much money as the parent. Which household in Cayman do you know where the children have almost as much money as the parent and living under the parent's roof? So I welcome the reform and the anything I can do to help, but this now needs to stop, and I'm very happy to hear that you'll be looking to manage the money centrally and save the costs.
Thank you, member. Any further questions? Member for Georgetown West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, can the minister identify when was the last increase pertaining to water supplies in the Cayman Islands?
In the Cayman Islands or in the franchise area of Water Authority?
Water Authority. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, through you, the last rate increase that was approved for Water Authority was in 2019.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chair, through you, can you identify what was that increase?
Mr. Chair, this may not be gospel, but the recollection may be that it could be around 2 or 3%.
Lady member from Cayman East.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the Honourable Minister. As it relates to paving and maintenance of roads in Cayman and Little Cayman, there were substantial amount that have been dug up so that we could have provided the very necessary water. And I know you have started the maintenance in the Spot Bay area, but the Watering Place area in particular, and I think there's probably 1 or 2 in the Creek area, needs some urgent attention for safety reasons more than anything else. I would like to have a commitment as to when would this be addressed.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, through you, I thank the member, my colleague, for the question, and I totally agree with her. The road paving continuing down from Northeast Bay into the creek, because as the member stated, it is a safety concern, will begin early in 2026. What we are attempting to do right now is to do the most affected areas with the turn in the road in Spot Bay. That was a dangerous driving area, but then also the dust and everything that's being caused in the creek, as well as the road crossings in West End. That is going to be our priority in reinstating the road areas for 2026.
continuing.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple, actually. Can a member confirm whether or not the Creek and Spotbear Primary School have now been connected with water as the means have passed those areas sometime now?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Chair, through you, we do believe that the Creek, the infant site, has been connected to pipe water, but I'm not entirely sure of the Spot Bay junior site. But perhaps when the Minister of Education is here, they could confirm if they've been connected.
Member continuing.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I wonder if the Honourable Minister is in a position to say an anticipated time for the water to work to commence upwards onto the bluff, in particular to the new school and the biggest subdivision and other areas there, because as you know, it's much more expensive to get pipe water and truck water, beg your pardon. Next year it'll be a little more expensive based on what the Georgetown Central will be, but it's been a long time coming since 2019 that they had an increase. I would just like to get that indication, because since Ivan and Paloma, more persons are now building on the bluff, and it's always good to expand the clientele.
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Chair, certainly through you to the member, it is definitely important to get piped water, more reliable water source to the people of Cayman. One of the issues that we're facing with expanding through those additional phases on the bluff is the pressure coming from all the way in Weston to the east up on the bluff. So that is why we're working expeditiously with the board right now to proceed with the pre-works for the bluff water works. That when that is in place, we can have more reliable service on the bluff to those customers, because I know that there are more than 400 households on the bluff at this time. So certainly the bluff area is growing, as you stated. So we're seeking to get that done as quickly as possible and to find a route that will provide reliable service to the new school without diminishing the pressure for everyone down below.
Continuing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As it relates to the child care services on the bluff, are there any plans for, well, let me just ask first, is there a waiting list for that center? And if so, are there any plans to give the needed expansion that was previously planned?
Mr. Chair, through you, yes, to the member, there is a waiting list at the daycare, and it is included in the budget to add additional classrooms at the daycare center. What I can say is that earlier this year, post-election, there were some concerns with how the wait list was being managed, not as to the standard with, for example, the Ministry and Department of Education. So we have we have done what we needed to do to ensure that Caymanians have access to the daycare services first as a priority. So until such time that the additional classrooms are completed, we want to ensure that any spaces that become available go to the Caymanian families.
Member continuing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to follow on, if you would so permit, I can say that was not a ministerial, neither his ministry or my ministry. That was a local policy decision that was made, and we became aware of it through social media. I'm glad to hear it's been rectified. If I could just move quickly then to the, and I'm still on page 127, where you refer to the shelters that are maintained. If you could, just for the sake of the record, confirm the number of shelters. And the reason why I'm asking that, Honourable Minister, is because with the recent Melissa that we thought that was coming, thank God it did not come, there was some hesitation because of where we were in the school calendar about the utilization of the West End Primary School. And I think that that ought to be sorted out. I mean, obviously, I have my thoughts about the $6 million that was saved, but I think seeing what has happened to Jamaica, we need to have a sit back down as to what obtains with the use of schools with that type of hurricane and the impact it would have, not just Cayman Brac, but throughout the entire Cayman Islands.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, through you, I can confirm to the member that the shelters in Cayman Brac are the West End Primary School, the Aston Rudder Civic Centre, and the Multipurpose Hall. Those are the registered shelters in Cayman Brac. And as the member stated, she is certainly correct that it does create some disruption when we have to mobilize the shelter in the primary school at West End School. What we are doing is, currently the multipurpose hall is being used partly for storage of materials for ongoing capital projects that are being incurred right now. And as soon as those are done, the new high school included, the Mondo track at the sports field, we plan to fix the multipurpose hall, or I guess retrofit it, I should say, to ensure that it can be used as a shelter once again, as well as the project completed under the last administration of the accommodation block will be added as a resource for emergency services and a command center for essential services during storms.
Member continuing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With reference to the accommodation section, could a minister give an update as to what obtains there, please?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for the accommodation block, Mr. Chair, through you to the member, has finally received the special certificate of occupancy. There were some issues with the inspection that they could not receive a CO, but they've now since received an SPO. We are awaiting a pump for the fire suppression system that should be installed shortly, and then we hope to get our full CO.
Continuing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I took note with interest that there's a proposed allocation under EA 125 for the Cayman Brac multipurpose hall for 2026 being $150,000 and 2027 $100,000. Can the Honourable Minister give us an insight as to what that's expected to cover, seeing the I think there was the recent communication that there's going to be some 20% increase in our freight charge for the Thompson shipping. Has that been taken into consideration with these costs that are here?
Mr. Chair, through you, this appropriation for the Cayman Brac multipurpose hall is to remediate, as I said, the space that is currently being used by the contractors for the new school. The offices, the bathrooms, the kitchen, because we want to ensure that this hall can be used by the school as well as the community. The figure there is anticipated to incorporate all anticipated fees and expenses needed to complete that over the next 2 years. And I trust that it is enough to cover what's needed.
Member continuing.
Without putting words in the Honourable Minister's mouth, Mr. Chairman, perhaps maybe want to consider that if I need more funds, I'll be coming back to the House, because based on experience, I can tell him this will just barely pay for the kitchen. Cabinets.
Mr. Chair, through you, I won't even wait for you to call on me for that one, but I will reassure the member that following in her footsteps, Mr. Chair, anything that Cayman Brac or Little Cayman needs, this minister will be there pounding down every single one of my colleagues' doors to get it in an exceptional circumstance.
Member continuing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With reference to EA 55, Cayman Brac and Little Cayman roads, I see that there's a significant drop to $500,000 for next year, and then there's up to $1.5 million in the following year. I wonder if you could give some justification for that. I mean, I greatly support my good friend from Northside, the minister, and the need for the roads here, and he knows he has my full support for that at all times. But we haven't seen levels like this, so it must have been since poor Mr. Choo days.
Mr. Chair, through you, thank you very much, and I do thank the member for being so astute in noticing that and looking out for the people of Cayman. The reduction to 500,000 for 2026 comes about because of our work as trying to balance priorities for a national budget. Historically, for several budget cycles, we have seen the appropriation level be $1 million in each year, which is $2 million for 2 years. What we have had to do is to rebalance how the appropriations are done for 2026 and 2027, where we have 500,000 in 26 and 1.5 million in 2027, which still gives you the same 2 million, but rebalanced. It is our plan to, as I said earlier, to be very pointed in the work that's done in 2026. But of course, as we alluded to just now, in an exceptional circumstance, if additional funds are needed, there are mechanisms that can be used.
Member continuing.
Mr. Chairman, take this as it's given. So when we obtain the more than the forecasted 10-point-something million in surplus this year, perhaps that would be a good cap-in-hand ask for Q1 of next year to up the $500,000 for this vote, which is wholly insufficient.
Thank you, Member.
I just needed a clarification, Mr. Chairman, on EA 1721, infrastructure works in the sister islands. If the Minister, Honourable Minister, would take this opportunity to elucidate on that, please.
Sure. Mr. Chair, through you, good observation. Remember, EA 1721, infrastructure works in the sister islands, was previously several different EA, executive asset appropriations, that have now been merged. So we had previously an executive asset line item for Cayman and Little Cayman street lighting, cemetery vaults for Cayman and Little Cayman, storm drains and deep wells, Little Cayman play field, Cayman public parks, as well as sister islands boat launch ramps. So they've now all been merged into one executive asset appropriation for infrastructure works in the sister islands.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, can the Minister say that whether or not through this merging process that the end result in a reduction, status quo, or increase?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I can say that there was a slight decrease with the merger, but nothing significant that compromises any one of the infrastructure line items comprised of EA 1721.
Member continuing.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As it relates to TP 101, Sister Islands Community Programs, TP 86, Sister Island Beaches and Community Cleanup Programs of 600,000 each. Can the Minister confirm that this will maintain the 3 weeks per month? And has there been any consideration, and this is not undue pressure because I did try and didn't succeed, so I'm being cautiously optimistic that you will, that they could now, there would be positive and affirmative consideration for them to be receiving the normal benefits of insurance up and above the workman compensation insurance that we take out, some type of pension allocation. The resistance that I caught was that they did want to add to the number of the civil servants and the cost, but at the end of the day, it's been a program that's been working extremely well. They've kept the roads meticulously clean, they work assiduously, and I believe that it's now bordering on humane for us to still be maintaining that they should not get these rights. So any advance that you make in that, I'd be more than happy to support it.
Mr. Chair, through you, firstly, let me echo the members' sentiments on the hard-working men and women of the TP 86 crew, as we call them in Cayman and Little Cayman, the Sister Islands Community Cleanup Crew. They certainly have dedicated day in and day out to ensuring that Cayman and Little Cayman are pristine in appearance. Whether it be roadsides, whether it be government properties, they are working assiduously to keep it in a tip-top shape. What I can say is that since day one, as I know that has been tried in the past, we have been trying to find a way forward to ensure that there is equity and equitable treatment for those members of that team. And we are working on a solution, and I'm sure that soon we'll have something to update you on, because I know that you, having had the opportunity to fight for the same thing and get resistance, you could provide input as well. So we are putting together a proposal to enhance the program, so to speak.
Member continuing.
And then, Mr. Chairman, the Watering Place bathroom that was started in January of this year and still has not got the roof on yet, and Melissa didn't take that, just they haven't got it on. I wonder whether the Honourable Minister could look at the whole project management and the speed of the work, because this has to be quite dismal for other projects that may come on board within the next 4 years. We try to give it in-house to Public Works, and so if you could give an update as to what's held it up. Sometimes I get inspection, planning issues. Sometimes I get that it's material, and most time I pass, I see people sitting down, not really doing anything. So it appears to be more of a project management. I'm not sure whether he is looking to upgrade, enhance, augment the project management at Public Works, because that's one of many projects that as I drive up and down, and I'm sure he's been coming back and drive up and down. Before they would get up when they saw an official come in. Now that doesn't even happen anymore.
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. The bathroom project in Watering Place Gardens is indeed being done in-house by the Public Works Department. The project manager is based on Cayman through the ministry, and it is still anticipated that that bathroom block in Watering Place Gardens will be finished next month, December 2025. So I've been reliably informed.
Member continuing.
I'll leave that topic alone in interest of my friendship with the Honourable Minister. Mr. Chairman, EI 93, equity investment in district admin for next year, 13 million plus, and a reduction about 600,000 or so in 2027. I wonder if the Honourable Minister could give some indication as to what is envisioned for this particular vote here for the Sister Islands.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for EI 93, we have quite a bit of work, capital projects going forward, or capital purchases, I should say, in the Sister Islands, mainly through district administration. The one highlight that I'm especially excited for is the completion of the renovations for the district admin building. But we're also, through EI 93, supporting the Joy Marie Tibbetts Adult Training Center with a wheelchair accessible bus for the clients there. We're also supporting the Sister Island Sports Unit with office furniture, with goals, with other materials supporting their programs. We are replacing signage around the island that has been faded. We are, as I mentioned earlier, renovating or continuing to renovate the old daycare center near district admin. We're also buying additional equipment for Public Works, heavy equipment that's needed, in addition to what they recently received last year.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the Honourable Minister. Is there any allocation for the remediation of the lands and survey building that was in the bite that they had to vacate? And perhaps the Minister could say the reason why they're still at the Creek Community Centre.
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Chair, through you, to answer the question, the work that was needed to be done at the office house in the Bight was due to air quality issues within the space. There was a lot of circulation of old air. So the quickest thing to do was to relocate the two government departments out of that house, move them into the Creek Community Center. As of right now, that is where they're going to be based until we can ensure that all of the work that needs to be done at the Bight House is complete. As the members are aware, but for the benefit of all honourable members, this relates to the Sister Islands Affordable Housing Development Corporation as well as the Lands and Survey Office in Cayman Brac that share those office suites.
Honourable member continuing.
Can the Honourable Minister give some indication as to when we can expect this work? And the reason that I'm asking is pretty much twofold. The proximity of the lands and survey equipment and essential data to the sea, there the creek, and also that it was designed for a community center. As he would fully know, Mr. Chairman, the Spot Bay Community Center is now being used, and we would like to get the use of that building. And lastly, the Cotton Tree Bay building that we were trying to get another community center there where the inner funds are allocated to that so that we can truly get into the culture and the heritage and complete with the Caymanization and social engineering that was commenced prior.
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Chair, knowing how important those community centres are to the strong community, it is our goal to ensure that Lands and Survey and the Affordable Housing Development Corporation do make their way back to their intended space. So we are working to ensure that that happens fairly quickly.
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Chairman, I have lots more, but I'm just going to ask one more. I can always find out offline. We had purchased a property next to the Westin Community Park and I've noticed that it still has been locked up. The reason why I have concerns is that that property, as you would probably know, is one of our heritage properties, and it contains a tremendous amount of artifacts. And when I last visited there, it looked as if one of the screens had been intruded upon. And I can tell you that that would be a travesty if care is not taken. Plus, it also looked like there might have been a leak in it if care was not taken to secure it and to preserve it, because it was not an easy acquisition. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. And yes, I can definitely say that it is important to preserve that house, and I do thank the member and the previous administration for securing that historically important property in Cayman Brac for the community. The ministry is excited next year and beyond to continue working with the Ministry of Culture and Heritage to expand the programs and offerings in Cayman Brac. And I know that the Heritage Coordinator in Cayman Brac through District Admin is excited. She has ideas for programs and what can be housed in the house. So we're looking to expand that, and we're quite excited to do so.
Thank you, Honourable Member for Bordentown East.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the discussion about Water Authority, can the minister say, and I heard you talking about the bluff and other stuff, and the process for water in Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac, is it the reverse osmosis process in both islands?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Chair, through you, yes, sir, it is.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In terms of the monitoring, is that surveillance cameras would be also. Electronic monitoring. You're the minister. You're surveillance cameras, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, maybe it's the wrong vote, but in terms of surveillance cameras, obviously this is a pet peeve of mine, and I see how in other countries surveillance cameras can work for the benefit of solving crimes. And I don't know exactly how strategic we are and what we have done so far. I know we have some cameras throughout the islands, but there are some recent murders and the likes in my area, in Bodden Town, and other areas that have went unsolved. And in fact, in the same area, you had hit and run of a person just walking on the Anton Bodden Road that wasn't solved either. That person's been deceased now for many years, and I haven't heard anyone. So I don't know if someone has done a tabletop exercise and come up with a strategy. I know sometimes I hear we ordering just 20 cameras and like we're just trying to piecemeal it, but we really need to put a big effort into trying to have a foolproof system where at least we can narrow things down. Has there been any progress in there?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. What I can say is that DPSC, the Department of Public Safety Communications, has a really good relationship with RCIPs, with the police service. And for example, very recently we expanded the national CCTV system in Cayman. And that was based on input from RCIPs on key strategic locations of where, because we all know that we can't be all places at once. Cameras are important. As you said, there's been murders, there's been deaths, there's been car accidents. If nothing else, a security camera in our national system can provide a family with closure. Last month, Mr. Chair, I lost a very good friend of mine 3 years ago on Queens Highway. Blind spots. Nobody's hardly there on that road. But had cameras been there, it would have helped the family. So I know that DPSC is constantly reviewing the strategic areas that need visual sight and working with RCIPs to ensure that those areas are covered to enhance how we patrol, how we secure, and how we protect.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank the Minister. I mean, the roadways are how people get about the place. They're not going through the bush. So 99% of the time they're on the roads. But thank you very much. Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask a question about prison services. I know you may have touched on some of this in your eloquent speech and presentation. But I wanted to, I know for years now, I mean, I sat on the prison board over 20 years ago before even being elected. And from that time, I know we had condemned West Bay's lockup and Georgetown's lockup and the prison after doing evaluations there, deplorable shape. But I'm also in the mind of education rather than incarceration. And I think that's what we'll all prefer. And there's the ministers for years have come with $100 million renovation project and otherwise, and some other piecemeal stuff. And I know it's not the minister's fault why it hasn't got through, but you know, we're running a government and you got a caucus, everybody needs to split the money. And, you know, if you've used $100 million, that's a lot, 1/10 or more. What approach are you taking in terms of, because I know you had some leaking at some point, and in terms of trying to upgrade, at least making it a humane rehabilitation center is what it should be. Any thoughts there or any discussions with the caucus?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, through you, remember that has been the greatest problem, the money that it takes. And there hasn't been a plan since the prison was condemned in 2005. Because as you rightfully stated, when you come saying I needed to build a new prison, it's $100 million, you're never going to get it. So what we have done in this budget is recognize that we can only attack it in small pieces. So in addition to remediation work, where we are fixing the electrical work at Fairbanks, we are doing kitchen renovations at Northward, we are replacing the wastewater treatment plant at Northward, the wastewater treatment plant at Fairbanks, all these things to bring it up to code. Right now, we have included appropriations for the new prison build in here, probably the most that it has gotten in the past. And I think all my colleagues will attest that I fought tooth and nail to ensure that this came in. They did support, let me just say, they did support, but we ensured that we got something. So the design has been done for a new prison. That has always been worked on. What we are doing now is approaching it in such a way that we don't try to build it out all at once, but attack and achieve the most critical areas, the most critical phases, the accommodation wings, the utility spaces, the classrooms, all of those, because as I said in my remarks on Tuesday, my contribution, rehabilitation, we need to start thinking differently about rehabilitation. And prisons need to move away from being a place of incarceration alone to a place of restoration as well. So there is monies included in EI 93 for the prison to do what we can within the next 2 years.
Member continuing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that answer, Minister. One last question in terms of the Cadet Corps. What data do you have in terms of persons going through the Cadet Corps and transitioning to real-time service and employment as police, prison, fire officers? Do we have any data on that?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thank the member for the question. So while the Cadet Corps has always been about instilling leadership skills and discipline in hopes that they find their way into the uniformed services, the pathways through to the fire service, to the Coast Guard, to the police, the focus on that and the partnerships, the strong partnerships, is pretty new. What I don't have exact figures of how many have gone through the fire cadets, the sea cadets, and so on, but what I can say is that there was one cadet that through one of those pathways joined the Coast Guard in February of this year. And that cadet now, forgive me, but I think the position is probably able seaman or something in the Coast Guard, was the highest scoring member or recruit of that class. So clearly the Cadet Corps, those pathways, those partnerships are working, and I know that as we go on, we'll begin to see more and more progress in making our young Caymanians feel valued in those uniform branches.
Mr. Chair, thank you, and I thank the Minister for that, and I do believe that the next crop of or the next cohort of leadership in our police, prison, and coast and fire can actually come from. And I think we should be very intentional about how we restructure the Cadet Corps. I thank you for your answers, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me.
Mike Tiger.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, through you to the Minister, go back to the Water Authority. Quick question. Does the authority pay a dividend to the Treasury?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me just preface this by saying I don't work at Water Authority no more, you know. But yes, Mr. Chair, through you to the member, Water Authority does pay a dividend to the government.
And may I ask what it is these days?
$250,000 every year.
Okay.
And and if I may continue, that is based on the formula produced by the Minister of Finance.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, in terms of the domestic and aerodrome fire services, is the aerodrome section of the fire services fully staffed at this time?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Chair, through you, the aerodrome division of the fire service is in full compliance, and we have a current cohort of 28 recruits, which bolsters the number even more.
You mentioned, you said 20, through you, sir, to the Minister, you said 28 crews.
Recruits.
Recruits. Oh, my apology then. I cancelled my question then. I'm fine, sir. Thank you.
The member from Cayman Brack. No, lady member from Cayman Brack. So I caught my eye first, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did make a note to ask, and it slipped me, the Honourable Minister, about the whether the curbing machine that was ordered, where that arrived on the Brack, and for the Mondo track, because I know the material for the Mondo track, I'm reliably informed, has been there sitting, and that's irrespective of the fact. I want to get an indication of when we can get the tracks in, because it's been dug up since January and we haven't been able to utilize it. So if you could give us some comfort that we could get the material out of the containers and onto the track.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The machine is there, the material is there, and we also want to lay down the material, Mr. Chair, through you to the member, because we are cognizant that the longer it stays in a container, so we actually have some of the material stored in the multipurpose hall to protect it. The procurement and the contract and everything has just successfully passed through the PPC, and the contract will be signed imminently to lay it all down, to curb it, and to complete that. The goal and the wish that I have passed on to the team is to have that completed before Q2 of next year.
Member for Red Bay, Mr. Tatum.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Through you, sir. Just to check, I think I'm looking at the correct data here, but what I'm seeing states that this return to the Water Authority. The Water Authority is expected to have reserves by the end of this year of over $78 million. Is that correct?
Just 1 minute, please, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's important to note that if the listening audience is hearing a loud banging outside, it's because of the Georgetown Heritage Day fireworks.
Thank you very much, member for Georgetown Central. I was going to clarify that soon to ensure that they didn't think it was any actions that you were taking from all your questioning here in Finance Committee.
Mr. Chairman, just to help the member, I'm looking at the ownership agreement, page 945. Restated balance December 31st, 2025.
Mr. Chair, that's correct.
Member continuing.
Thank you. I thank the member for that confirmation as well. So I've been sitting here pondering, Mr. Chairman, with that kind of cash and understanding that the Water Authority plans forward for 10 years, but with that amount of cash, I have a great respect for the Water Authority. But I'm having a hard time understanding why would there be a need for a 3% raise on folks. So 3% may not sound like a lot, but it cascades through the economy. The stores use water, everybody uses water. So I'm just trying to understand how we would justify, given that people are still having a tough time, why would we be looking to increase rates at this point, even if it's 3%? Thank you.
While the minister confers, Mr. Tatum, what would probably be useful is for the analysis on the average bill, because I think that's a lot more helpful than just talking about 3%, where we talk about on a average person, an average Caymanian, and their bill and what that uplift typically means per month, because this is spread over thousands of households. And so we need to be very much cognizant of the fact that the authority does need, as the minister said, to remain in a position to be able to build out the very infrastructure that customers need and do it in a responsible way without having to come for government to then have to fund it and pay interest on it. So I know the minister.
But if I could just add, Mr. Chairman, sorry to interrupt you, but I agree with you, which is why I said, but it has a cascading impact on the economy as a whole. Meanwhile, I did do the calculation on my own bill, right? But that's Roy Tatum earning whatever I earn. But the point I'm making is I'm still struggling. The minister will answer it, so I'll be quiet. I'm still struggling to understand why we'd be looking at doing an increase, but I'll be quiet and let him answer.
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. I will do my best to explain how you achieve short-term, medium-term, long-term capital goals with a directive that you are not allowed to borrow. That is a simple truth. Water Authority has received direction in the past, and it still stands, that they cannot borrow. So they've been very prudent in ensuring that they have what they need to outlay the capital works necessary over the next 10 years. When you compare their short-term needs, medium-term, and long-term, that 78, that number may look big now, but once they start building out, very soon in the immediate future, it's going to be depleted. When you think about the Bluff Waterworks in Cayman Brac, the expansion in Little Cayman, the additional RO storage tank that's needed at Red Gate because of the growing population in central Grand Cayman, the new site in North Side that's needed for the growing population in the eastern districts. Oh, Hi, Minister. And all that is needed, I think that while it's a big number now, it can disappear very quickly. So I agree with our position with the Minister of Finance. There are, as we like to say, there are ways that we need to look at doing things differently for the future, to spread the love. But the Minister of Finance and the duly abled Financial Secretary and the team will, of course, review all of these reserves and finances and capital development plans to ensure that what they're saying makes sense, that they're planning wisely, and whether it can be redeployed somewhere else. We spoke about the need for the 3%. Well, the 3% is necessary in the future, because if you maintain at the current levels without any kind of increase, you won't be able to achieve anything, and you'll soon end up in a deficit. You won't be able to contribute the $250,000 to government. And when the authority had been looking at the rate increase, which, by the way, as per the Water Authority Act and the Water Authority regulations, Water Authority is actually entitled through the Act to increase rates at this time by 15%. The Board of Directors, the management, and the government, last administration, this administration, does not agree with such a stark increase for the Caymanian public. That's not what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to achieve financial responsibility, to hop along. A 3% increase for an average residential customer in Grand Cayman increases the monthly bill by $2.68. For commercial customers, $9.92 per month. In Cayman Brac, the average residential customer will see an increase of $2.05, and commercial accounts, $10.43 per month. Again, this is something that OFREG is reviewing with the board and with management of Water Authority. It is all up to OFREG to give their approval. But it is, considering what is entitled under the law and what the board and government has looked at and said, and the board has agreed to only do 3% to try and help continue the work of supplying water to the country. It's nominal, and it should not cause a dramatic effect on the people.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, I need to, I can't hold this, I'm sorry. And I thank the members for giving me. No, I can't hold. Mr. Chairman, this is a classic case of majoring in the minor. And I'm going to tell you why I said it. For 2024, Water Authority had revenues of $852,984. Almost $47 million. And their net profit was under $745,000. Think about this. Almost 47 million CI in revenues and 745,000 to the bottom line. For this year, for 2025, Water Authority is forecasting $49,187,289 in revenues and $237,000 to the bottom line. I won't put this in layman's term. 49 million in revenue and less than 250,000 to the bottom line. We always we complain about privatizing profits and socializing losses. This is a valuable service that Water Authority provides to the country. Those banks last year, 986 million US in revenue, 752 million to the bottom line, pushing their employees out through the door with no health insurance, and we about $237,000 for institution. You all understand that everybody needs water? This is what we're spending time on when the banks are ripping our people off. Come on now, man. Do better than this. $237,000 from 49 million in revenue. Every other entity in this country is ripping Caymanians off and over $237,000 out of $49 million in revenues. I vote on this thing and move on, man.
I just want to add one little piece to the analysis. Of that entity, whilst, member, you are quite right, the total revenue is 49 million. I draw your and Mr. McTaggart in particular's attention to the fact that of that 49 million, 4 million is investment revenue. In other words, unless their accountant can give me some magic, that means they've made a loss on ordinary operations. I am not going to sit here and have us talk about a 3% increase and make it sound like an average. Minister, can you give me the average for the commercials?
$2.68.
$2.68 per household bill. What's for the
$9.92 for
$9.92. Now let us not dramatize it. This is going to have some huge ripple effect. And Mr. Bryan, let me be very clear.
I listening.
Yeah. Make sure you understand now. We ain't talking. This is real talk, and this is talk about what has actual, real economic ripple effect. This is not going to have any huge ripple effect throughout this economy. It is not. The entity needs the revenue. This is very clear. Are we going to admit that the entity needs the revenue and that the responsible thing to do, it's hardly ever gotten an increase because it's government owned? I live in the District of West Bay. I can tell the world, very rarely do I have any West Bayer come to me complain about the cost of the Cayman Water Company, whose rates are higher. So let's talk about the Cayman Islands. One set of people pay more, the other set pay less. What do people complain about? Cost of food, cost of electricity. I don't have anybody coming to me with no big complaints about the cost of water. The cost of water in this country, compared to the market size, is relatively low. This 3% increase is not going to have any hugely harmful effects on our people or the economy. But this entity does need to have the capacity to survive financially. Right now, if you look at these numbers and take out investment revenue, in every year, it means it's in deficit. Anybody want to try to figure out where they're holding on to their cash?
Finish, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't finished earlier. I was interrupted.
Sorry.
That's fine. Mr. Chairman, this is Finance Committee. You want to understand something, you ask a question. I have zero understanding for why my colleague to my left got so animated. I honestly don't. I don't intend to follow him in that vein. Right? But I didn't appreciate it, sir. But that's fine. This is Finance Committee. I had a question. I have a right to ask a question. And if I have a concern, I have a right to say I have a concern. There was an explanation given. You offered an explanation. I listened a long time to the honorable member. I won't belabor the point anymore. But I really hope that as we proceed through here, for whatever number of days this is, that people respect, members respect when questions are asked.
I respect my ability to ask it too. Trying to shut me down earlier.
No, I wasn't trying to shut you down at all.
Try to shut this block vote crap, or to try to shut me down. So you want to play politics? Let's go.
Mr. Chairman, I will leave it at that, sir. Thank you.
Order, members.
Mr. Chairman? Yes, sir. There is.
Member from Georgetown Central.
For once, I am not the one causing the trouble. So let's move on. Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask the minister, in light of the circumstances in Jamaica, there is a lot of family members of Caymanians who may have been affected, particularly to the east side of Jamaica, St. Elizabeth, Montego Bay, and so forth. The west, sorry. I apologize. I can make a mistake, you know, Mr. Chairman. Wow. Getting fireworks, okay. To the west of Jamaica. And as a result, there may be a high probability of visa applications for, particularly with children, who may want to come and stay with their children for maybe a period of time. I remember when Ivan hit, many of us went over to other parts, particularly Cayman. Now, I know this may be touchy for some people in this room, considering the fact of any Jamaicans being here, because I already starting to see some faces. But there are Caymanian children in Jamaica. So my question I'm getting at, is the minister aware or concerned about any hindrances in the visa application for persons who may want to come over as a way of relief if they have persons here that can help from an affordability perspective, take care of them until their circumstances back home are in a better state. And I'm specifically talking about elderly and children.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As it relates to elderly and children, there's no hindrances. The member may be aware that children under the age of 15 and elderly persons above the age of 70 do not need a visa to come. So there's no hindrances on them entering Cayman.
Thank you, good, kind Minister, and you are 100% correct. I was thinking about persons who may find outside of that parameters who would still be considered to be a dependent in some capacity, either on the fringes of those age brackets. But I think you are aware of the circumstances, and I'm assuming being mindful, even to those who are maybe in a dire, because I know the visa requirements doesn't talk about persons with disabilities, or persons who may have loved ones here and they've lost everything, whether it's provisions for them to visit for a short period of time or what have you. But I brought it to your attention. I think I'll leave it there. The other one, Mr. Chairman, even though a 3% increase is still going to affect the people for Water Authority, no matter how much your increase is. You see, sometimes we forget that the pocket, if you're not got nothing, a 0.5% is a little bit, but I digress. In respect to CBC2, when we were leaving office, the last administration, we got indications that there would be access to the database for the United States to identify potential criminals or persons of interest, and we would have access to that database for our authorities at CBC. Can you inform or update us on whether that is still the case or not?
One Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, and right there with you, I cannot wait until we have access to that database, because as I said in my contribution on Tuesday, CBC are both guardian and gateway. They are first guardians to our security in this country, and the more that we can provide them, the resources that we can provide them to better do their job to protect us, the greater. So right now we have been working with the governor's office to formalize the arrangement with the United States. Because it's a bilateral agreement, it goes through that channel. But it is progressing quite well. The budget does include funds to roll it out. So as soon as we get those steps taken care of, we're even better protected.
Thank you so much, Minister. That's great news, and I'm happy to be a part of the former administration that started the ball rolling while you take the baton and close the deal. So look forward to further announcements when that happens to help us protect our borders. Moving on now to something I know that is very important to you and to me, and I'm quite sure everybody, because we all got Cayman Brac connections in some capacity. But there was an intention, and I think you campaigned on this, about back-of-house services jobs for Cayman Brackers. Have you met with the DG about options available to consider that for Cayman Brackers?
Mr. Chair, through you, I have not had a meeting with the Deputy Governor on that because it is the hopes that those back-of-house jobs would be from the private sector to expand the economy in Cayman Brac. As you are aware, I would venture to say 90% of the people in the Sister Islands are hired by government. We need to expand our economy. There were some essential service jobs from government that were created. General Register was recently added, public service pensions was recently added. Those services are essential, not back of house. So when we talk about back of house, and these meetings have been happening, trying to progress this with the private sector, is to get them to move some services to Cayman Brac. So those conversations are happening, have been happening, and we look forward to that continuing, and we see some progress there.
Thank you, Minister. Again, through you, Mr. Chairman, I think you're on the right track, right, to depend on the private sector and not always depend on the civil service. So smart approach. But I would dare encourage you to say that there is room for consideration of the civil service, because we're not increasing the number. What we're doing is transferring jobs that can be done in Cayman Brac. You and I both know all of our Cayman Brackers come over here to work and they don't want to leave Cayman Brac. And if they could still be in the service in Cayman Brac, they would do so. So I would encourage you to have that conversation with the DG, because for right now, we actually do have some services that we're offering. Like, for example, I think NAU has some of their call service providers in the Brac, whereby they deal with all the information you need from a phone or from email, and they don't live in Grand Cayman. So there's opportunity there. And if we want to provide economic opportunity for Cayman Brac, we have to start having the conversations. We can't campaign on it only. We need to start following through. All right, moving on.
Mr. Chair, sorry if I may, I totally agree with the member on that. It has never been my intent to campaign on it only. We are definitely going to work towards making that a reality. And what I can say is that one of the initiatives that we are doing through CBC is to expand the Coles online platform to the Sister Islands. And with that will come, this is back to government, but will come increased job opportunities, because we want to move some of the approval process by officers there in Cayman Brac. So we're adding additional officers and back office jobs through CBC to handle those approvals. So I thank the Minister for caring for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman just as much as I do.
Thank you so much, Minister, and I thank him for keep on trying to put it into existence, but I'm not Minister anymore.
I'm making the same mistake as my colleague, but I don't apologize.
Maybe it's not a mistake. Maybe the Lord is talking to you. With that being said, the other component of concern, we move on, is you know that I brought a motion to this Parliament just a few months back. And unfortunately, I missed this question to the former minister, but it goes to you. But the former minister is here, so maybe he can add some components to it. But a very sensitive motion was brought to this House about a young man who was unable to go away to university for school on the basis that he had a police record for going over 5 miles an hour on his jet ski and had a criminal record. This Honorable House all voted unanimously to address the matter. Up to this day, I haven't heard a word. And guess what? That young man is not in university. He's at home doing nothing. A simple amendment, but if you want a different amendment for other bills, then I rush down your quick time. But a child's education is obviously not a priority. So be nice. Okay, I'll be nice. Can the Honourable Minister say where the progress is in respect to this under the topic of rehabilitation?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and it's actually my pleasure to speak on rehabilitation on behalf of anybody, because it's a matter and a subject that's very important to me. And what I can say is that this government shares that same importance. What I can share through you, Mr. Chair, to the member and to all colleagues in this Honorable House Committee, that just today, Cabinet approved the drafting instructions to amend a suite of laws and regulations applicable to Port Authority. And one of the components of that is to decriminalize that specific item in the regulations that that criminalizes the speeding within 200 yards of the shoreline.
Thank you so much for that update. That's a pleasure to hear that. Maybe the minister should have put that in his opening speech. It would have been a lot more, less questions. But in light of that, is it possible, since you were reliably informed, I can't ask the minister because he's no longer on the floor for questioning. Can you say when that bill will be presented to Parliament so I can have a timeline of approval?
Mr. Chair, I know the question is being posed directly to me. I thank the honourable member for Cayman West for answering the question about the CP being brought to Cabinet today for approval. But I just want to assure the member that we are taking the drafting instructions very seriously and getting it done quickly with outsourcing it, because a lot of the drafting that we want to get done in the Port Authority Act has a lot to do with the AAA audit for us to pass that in the next 90 days, I think it was due. So we are working with the Attorney General Chambers of looking to outsource the legal drafting on that particular act.
Thank you, Minister J. I'll just move on by saying, and I know the Honourable Premier is paying close attention to what I'm about to say. Sometimes minor little changes get held up for overall reforms. And I do not think in this particular case, this should be held up for. I'm not suggesting that it is, but I want to put a timestamp. 2.5 months ago, I brought that motion. And Minister, I am monitoring it, because every day that we are not willing to bring it to this House is another day that that young man cannot leave this country to go off to university. But I trust that you say you're putting your full attention. But the next time I ask, I don't want to hear that we're waiting for all the other amendments when this one is a simple one, which is to remove that as a criminal component, which is a minor amendment. But while okay, that amendment is done, but we're still having to function on all the other amendments, which will take up time. And that happens way too often. So I ask, can you give a timeline for when that will come?
Mr. Chair, through you, I can't give the member a direct timeline on when that will come. What I can do is we're expediting it as quickly as possible to make sure to see that the whole act is being redone. As I told you before, we are trying to make this 90-day with the AAA audit code. But I will speak to the Attorney General Chambers to see if that's something that we can pull out and maybe get that section done a little bit quicker and make the changes. And then I'll be able to report back to this Honourable House or give it back to you in writing when I speak to him.
Thank you, Member. I'm going to move on now, Mr. Chairman, to my last two areas.
Mr. Chair.
Just very quickly.
Honourable Member from Georgetown Central, I wanted to just mention, I'm not so sure how the decriminalization of the water sports zone is going to help this young man, as the charge has already been laid. I am wondering, Mr. Chair, sorry, Member, why hasn't he gone to the board to try to have this? I mean, I think this is something that could have been, it can't be expunged.
No. And
5 years. Yeah, because I mean, I actually brought the law for second chance motion 2011, I think it was, so because of the same problem. But anyhow, just a thought there.
Thanks for the interjection, member from Bontown East, but I recognize the Premier who wanted to speak on this for a few seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was just to assure the member for Georgetown Central that in this case, there is an inherent timeline for the III code that the minister is up against. So it is fortunate in this case that the pressure is being brought to bear to make this international standard that he can sweep up this amendment. If for some reason, as the minister has said, it stalls, we can pull out the simple amendment. But I'm relatively confident because we need to keep Macy in particular, Maritime Authority, in line with international standards. This will have a rapid turnaround time.
thank you so much for that, Premier. Through you, Mr. Chairman, and I would just, I'm quite sure you guys have thought about it, but I think that you have to recognize that within the draft and instruction, it has to be retroactive. Because if it's not retroactive, then this person will not be the beneficiary of it, right? Because it would only be for those persons moving forward. So just for drafters who is listening, bear that in mind. Okay, moving on. Yeah, okay, perfect. Through you, Mr. Chair, the DAD 16, Minister, which has to do with tourism and business development in Cayman, which is awesome and amazing. Can you tell me what collaborations thus far as a way of tourism strategic approach for Cayman? Because I unfortunately saw very little, and I'm going to say this again, very little in your strategic policy statement about tourism. And we'll be speaking about that when I speak to my good friend, the Honorable Deputy Premier. Go ahead.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the member, this appropriation or this output is, as it relates mostly to the activities of the Marketing and Promotions Unit of the Department of District Administration. Historically and today, what we focus on is promoting ecotourism in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman in partnership with the Sister Islands Tourism Association, and through, I guess this would be outside of DOT's work, so in tandem with DOT. But it is mostly just for basic, not basic, but different programming in comparison to DOT. It is targeted, it is small in number, and it provides boutique services that aren't necessarily provided through the private sector yet in Cayman Brac or Little Cayman in the tourism sense. It also ensures that all of the nature products that we try to do for ecotourism in the Sister Islands are maintained. All of the pathways through the historical trails on the bluff, the national parks, the caves, the stairways going to the caves, all of those are maintained through this line item.
Thank you. Just to wrap up this area, have your ministry and the Ministry for the Deputy Premier met together about this line item yet?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have had meetings. The chief officers have had discussions.
About this particular line item?
Whether this line item was discussed, I cannot say.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, last question for me. And I want to say this for the record. I am really happy about the passion that I see this minister is delivering in respect to rehabilitation. Many may know my storyline, and rehabilitation is a big component of that. You know, make mistakes in life, you got to be able to have a system that is there for you to recover, so society don't throw you out with the bath water. There is something that has been nagging many people in our community for some time, particularly with persons who've been to prison or the reoffenders, the difficulty of transition from prison back into society from a support system perspective. Can you tell me if there's anything you have identified that needs to be changed in respect to that transition failures that we continue to have, and if you have found any, what are you doing to propose to change that? I'll give you an example of one main one. You come out of prison, you're not gonna know where to go, and nobody there, no place to sleep. Lucky if you had any work in the prison, did they give you some money when you leave, and if you wasn't a worker, you're leaving empty-handed. High probability you're going to commit a crime again, not necessarily because you want to, but because you need to live, you need to survive, you need to eat, you need to sleep, all of these things. So, opportunity for you to talk about the policy perspective of it.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, what I can say is that this ministry has done a tremendous amount of work in supporting persons through their rehabilitation efforts, even before I was there and more so now. As I said in my contribution, we are moving from maintenance to momentum. The ministry proudly supports the Bridge Foundation as a sort of transitional program for those. Most of their clients come out of prison. It provides them with housing, employment, and so on, those resources that they need immediately out of prison. We had a seconded prison officer in the ministry working on policy when I assumed office. And one thing in particular that secondee was working on was allowing a framework, a better framework and access to opening bank accounts. Because even to this day, you still hear of complaints where banks are turning away Caymanians from opening bank accounts because of their criminal history. But then they can't get a job because they don't have a bank account. So our ministry has worked with all of the, well, majority of the local banks through the Bankers Association in creating a framework, a policy, and ensuring that bank accounts can be opened for these persons. And we have specific contact details for persons that are there, specific letters to be written in support of the bank accounts. So we are making progress in ensuring that persons who want to do better can do better and are provided with the help to do so. I know that a few months ago, you and I had a meeting on, or as it pertains to expungement and the barriers to rehabilitation through the expungement process. And I want to say that it was great to, although we may not serve in the same government, but to know that the passion is shared in that sense. And through that discussion, caucus cabinet has supported the removal of the $25 application fee for expungement, because we believe that that was one unnecessary barrier. When you look at what a person has to go through to apply to have their record expunged, to go to the post office, make the payment, get the receipt, submit the receipt with the application, and wait and wait. It cut out 3 steps by removing that one fee. And what did government lose for removing that barrier? $1,000 in revenue. That was it. But a tremendous barrier was eliminated because we believe in providing resources to people who want to better their lives, to make a valuable contribution to society.
That, Mr. Chairman, is an example of working together. And I am glad that the public have just seen an example that members in the opposition can still help their lives by working with ministers like yourself who's willing to sit and talk, because ultimately affected that change by your cabinet. Thank you so much. Last thing from me, which is a very big thing, but you probably don't have an answer. We voted on, yes, there's going to be plenty of those we voted on the referendum to decriminalization marijuana, the decriminalization of possession of marijuana in small quantities without the definition. The Honorable Premier did give some updates, I think about 4 months ago, when I asked him what the plan was. I think there was a intention for the rehabilitation. The people who are going to review the legislation and give Law Reform Commission. Thank you so much. Any update on that? That's all I really wanted to know. Any closer to it? Because I know that there's a lot of people who are interested in that, because that too is a hurdle, and a barrier in the rehabilitation process as well.
Mr. Chair, through you, as much as I would love to provide the member with an answer, because I'm quite eager to see the results of that as well, I will leave that for when the portfolio of legal affairs comes before Financial Committee.
Member from Bordentown West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, through you to the Honorable Minister. I remember quite a while back when they were setting up the Cadet Corps, and they were basically saw that as one of the feeder organizations into areas of the uniform scale. I can't help but notice in the last HR report that was published by the portfolio of the Civil Service that the Prison Services is one of the government departments, very few, but one of the few government departments where the ratio of Caymanians versus non-Caymanians is actually quite high. And I'll be curious to know, while I recognize that the iron of civil servants are under Section 55 of the Constitution, are there any initiatives that the government is looking at taking to increase the amount of Caymanians that would be employed within the prison service?
Honorable Minister.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, through you, as the member rightly stated, that would be a Section 55 area. But what I can say, having been reliably informed, is that the Ministry and the Department of His Majesty's Prison Service has been promoting recruitment of Caymanians, targeted recruitment of Caymanians into the prison service. But historically, it has always been an issue. Historically, it has always been an issue of attracting Caymanians into that field because you'll always know somebody in prison. I went to a graduation at prison where over 100 prisoners were receiving certifications, and I saw people there that I grew up with, people that I went to school with, people that I lived down the street from. So if you're charged with guarding them and keeping them in their place, it may be difficult. A lot of individuals may find that difficult, but there are efforts being made to get Caymanians into that field, those who feel the calling to do so, because working for the prison service isn't just guarding. Again, going back to rehabilitation, it's providing those resources to allow a person to rehabilitate.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Minister. Mr. Chairman, through you to the Honorable Minister, one of the things that I've always been concerned with the prison, and the prison is one of the areas that's also very near and dear to me, plus it's also my constituency, but it's a place where I offered tutoring after I came back from university to go there and help out. I am curious in terms of the amount of costs that the government incurs, especially with regards to medical care for non-Caymanian prisoners. And in some cases, they are non-violent offenders, from what I understand. But the medical cost for some is actually quite high. Is there a policy we're looking at where some people are expensive to maintain from being sick, non-Caymanian, and require serious medical assistance? Do you look at maybe commuting their sentences and sending them home a little bit early?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, through you, as it stands right now, we have a duty to follow the court orders. I agree with you. I share the same concerns with all the expenses that are incurred for foreign nationals that we have to incarcerate. It is a policy initiative that could be looked at and explored for the future, but of course that would have to be done in collaboration and led by the Judicial Administration and Portfolio of Legal Affairs and DPP's office, not necessarily this ministry. We would be the benefactors with less expenses to the prison, but it would be a policy that, and I'm sure that those entities are listening and perhaps will put that on their agenda.
Thank you very much.
We'll continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank the Honourable Minister for that response. And I must say to the Honourable Minister that he has a very good team working for him. I know the Chief Officer is a very capable guy, plus he has a lot of as good as the department and Deputy Chief Officers along with him. One of the things I am pleased to hear is the, I guess, changing up the prison in the sense of trying to build a new prison. And when you look at the same HR report and look at the number of prison officers above the age of 50, which is a good percentage, and then you also consider how the prison is designed compared to international standard, we're almost running, I think, one time we looked at the ratio, almost 2 to 1 or 1 to 1 in terms of number of admin, non-prisoners, well, admin and prison staff compared to prisoners. Whereas in the UK and elsewhere, from what I understand, it was like the ratio like 10 to 1, 12 to 1 from that standpoint. So the prison by design is very inefficient, and it requires way more personnel to manage than would require a standard prison. In terms, if you look at the amount of egress points or places where people can escape and so forth. So I'm very happy to see that this is being addressed. And I think by the time many of those other prison officers above the age of, say, 50 go to retire, by then the prison should be pretty much complete, and then we should be able to have a much smaller staff complement at the prison, which in the long term would be better to save the country money. So with that said, I just wanted to thank the minister and also thank his team for the job that they're doing. And so that's pretty much it. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, member. And since there are no further questions, I propose to take the appropriations to the Honourable Minister responsible for District Administration and Home Affairs in block. So in accordance with Standing Order 83.3, I put the question as to whether honourable members would approve DAH1 $6,848,895 2026, $6,814,268 in 2027. DAH2, $13,449,455 in 2026, $13,779,234 in 2027. DAH3, $5,327,955 in 2026, $5,436,133 in 2027. DAH4, $27,350,998 in 2026, $27,975,949 in 2027. DAH5, $19,979,476 in 2026, $20,969,839 in 2027. DAH6, $6,598,445 in 2026. $7,097,555 in 2027. DAH7, $26,020,040 in 2026, $26,340,779 in 2027. DAH8, $4,974,414 in 2026, $5,032,256 in 2027. DAH 9, $1,468,952. 2026, $1,704,950 in 2027. SIH 1, $569,263 in 2026, $570,116 in 2027. NGS 38, $1,741,000 in 2026, $1,741,000 in 2027. TP 46, $130,000 in 2026, $130,000 in 2027. TP 66, $600,000 in 2026, $600,000 in 2027. TP 69, $155,000 in 2026, $155,000 in 2027. TP 86, $600,000 in 2026, $600,000 in 2027. TP 101, $160,000 in 2026, $160,000 in 2027. OE 115, $86,000 in 2026, $86,000 in 2027. OE 144, $2,024,000 in 2026, $2,177,000 in 2027. EI 93, $13,171,532 in 2026, $12,513,700 in 2027. EA 55, $500,000 in 2026, $1,500,000 in 2027. EA 60, $250,000 in 2026, $200,000 in 2027. EA 125, $150,000 in 2026, $100,000 in 2027. EA 144, $50,000 in 2026, $150,000 in 2027. EA 171, $729,000 in 2026, and $755,000 in 2027. Honorable members, I move that the aforementioned output groups be approved on the schedule to the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, no. The ayes have it. I invite the Honorable Minister responsible for District Administration and Home Affairs to offer closing remarks to the Finance Committee.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. First, let me thank you and all honourable members in the House for the support and for the care in which questions were asked and the interest that was shown through the questions in the work that we're doing through this ministry. Secondly and lastly, Mr. Chair, let me thank the awesome members of my team who have been here for the last 7 hours, who even had to run out or leave the office and come and get food for them and steal snacks and distribute all over the place. My sincere thanks to all of them, the chief officer, the deputy chief officers, the chief financial officer, the strategic advisor, all of the HODs for the departments, the finance managers, the head of SAGCs and the finance managers from those. Mr. Speaker, it wasn't only me that prepared for this Finance Committee session, it was them. They are the ones that I say that work from sun up till sundown every single day, but more importantly today to defend every dollar that has been requested in this budget. So without them, it would not have been possible. So I sincerely thank them, and I look forward to all the work that we will be doing together for the people of the Cayman Islands over the next 2 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair.
Honorable Minister, thank you, and thank all of your team for coming and providing the very comprehensive answers to the committee. It certainly has been a privilege to have sat through the first day of Finance Committee under a full budget. I thank all members for all questions asked. I know sometimes we do get a little impassioned, but that just goes with the territory. We are human and we are but humble servants of the people. So at this juncture, I close this meeting of Finance Committee to resume at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, Friday, the 14th of November, 2025. Just for housekeeping, we start with the Minister responsible for education and training.